All right, we're going to be talking about Contagious, Why Things Catch On by Jonah Berger. We're just going to talk about the first chapter of this book. And in the book, he talks about the ideas of why do we talk about certain subjects over others. And he gives 6 factors in the book. It's actually pretty good. I'm just going to be talking about one at a time. And the first one is something called social currency. All right, and this is a term that he coined in the book. And what he means by it is that we talk about subjects that have social currency, meaning that when we talk about them, they buy us to make us more interesting, right? When we talk about certain subjects that are a social currency, they make us more appealing and more interesting human beings. And just off the top, that seems like it makes sense. Nobody wants to be the death of a party. Everybody wants to be the life of the party. And if we can talk about certain things that make us seem more interesting, more important, effectively raising our status, then we're going to talk about it more. Now, he gives 3 different ways for how we can make something, or how we can create an idea that has a higher social currency value. And the 3 factors are to have inner remarkability. Let me just get my notes here to make sure I get it right. To have inner remarkability, to insert game mechanics into what we're talking about, and to make people insiders about what they're talking about. We'll go over all 3 of them one at a time. So the first one is to have inner remarkability. What this means is quite simply to make whatever you're talking about remarkable, right? You got to find an angle at what you're talking about and to make it more surprising, extreme, or just to go against what you would normally think. One way you can do this, in a way that a soda company was able to incorporate this into their product, was by inserting kind of neat factoids underneath the bottle cap. It was a Snapple. So for example, if you got a bottle and you opened it underneath the cap, you'd see a cool fact. And you see this quite often happen with companies. I remember when I was younger, I had a bubble gum company. I think it was Double Bubble that did the exact same thing. And it would just say a little fact, like one from the book, kangaroos can't walk backwards, right? And while just hearing that fact, you might think, what, really? Kangaroos can't walk backwards? Why can't they just put one foot behind the other? But apparently it's true, and it causes us to talk to other people about it. And the reason why we do that is because it makes us seem more in the know, more interesting, because that's a cool fact. And we're telling the other person a cool fact, so by relation, they must think that we're cooler. And it's just kind of a way that we might raise our status. We do it unconsciously, or maybe consciously. I'm not sure, but what Jonah's sure of, and what I believe him on, is that we do talk about things that are remarkable, and in effect make us seem more remarkable. The next factor in the book is to insert game mechanics into your ideas. All right, so really what he means by this is to kind of insert status, insert a hierarchy into your ideas. So for example, Foursquare did a really good job at this, right? Foursquare is an app. I don't even really know what the app does exactly. I think it's something along the lines that you go to a restaurant, you can rate it when you've been there. But what Foursquare did was they inserted game mechanics into their app so that when you went to certain restaurants, if you went to the restaurant the most in a month, you would get a badge, right? Another good example is airlines. What is it called, where your frequent flyer miles or whatever. The more you fly, the more miles you get, the higher the tier you're going to be in, and then you get a little bit, you get higher on the leaderboards, right? So if you fly more often than the next guy over, he might just be a normal member, but since you flew, say, 10,000 miles in the month, you become a premium member. Now, people love to brag, so when you become the premium member, you're going to tell other people about what you did. You became a premium member and blah, 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 blah. Same idea with Foursquare. Oh, I just got this badge for going to the restaurant the most in a month. It makes you seem higher status, so you talk about it more, and that's why we talk about it more. One caveat with this, however, is to make sure that when you insert game mechanics, you don't make it too confusing. All right, because if For example, the game mechanics were made in a way that premium member and executive member in the frequent flyer miles, and it wasn't clear which one was more prestigious, then it kind of loses its meaning. In the book, Jonah talks about how credit cards have kind of come upon this sort of problem because there's so many different cards now. There's platinum, diamond, sapphire, ruby. Nobody really knows which card is more valuable or higher status, so nobody talks about it as much. So that's just one caveat you want to watch out for if you're trying to insert game mechanics into your own ideas. And the last way to make something have a higher social currency is to make people insiders when they know about it. And really what this means is you got to make the information have the perception that it's you have to create the perception that the information that you're sharing is more exclusive, meaning that it's more scarce. It's not as widely abundant as other things, right? People love to tell or share secrets and gossip. So when you make it seem as if the subject or idea that you're sharing with this person is a secret, they want to gossip about it with other people because, again, it'll make them look better in the eyes of other people, and it'll effectively raise their status. To give a good example of this is Disney, right? Disney has the Disney Vault. If you haven't heard of it, it's where all the classic movies go to sit and collect dust when they're not being sold outside of out in stores. So what Disney does is they have classics and they'll put them on sale for a little bit of time. So for one example could be The Lion King. They'll sell The Lion King for a period of time, short period of time, call it a month. And then after that month is done, they put it back into the vault and it's locked away and nobody can get it anymore. But what this causes people to see that when it's available, when the scarce resource is available, they're more likely to talk about it and go try to get it. Same idea with what you talk about. If you give the perception that the ideas that you talk about are scarce, more people are going to want to talk about it. Just kind of simple supply and demand. When supply goes down, there's higher demand. There's only one caveat with this as well, is you don't want to make your ideas too scarce and too exclusive, right? If it's too difficult to find, people will give up and not put in the necessary work that they need to do to get it. So it's really important that you give the perception that it's scarce, but not necessarily make the information that scarce, right? And it's a fine line to walk, but if you can walk it the right way, then you should be doing good at the end. That's all I got from the first chapter on social currency. I know I'm not very good at explaining this. This is probably kind of difficult to understand from the way I talk. It's also for me to get better at speaking, so hopefully I do get better over time. And anyways, as always, have a good day.